Hello you, how we doing folks? It's Saturday night and there's four of us here for your listening delight. It's an early adventure for Maureen O'Brien and Peter Purvis alongside Bill Hartnell's first Doctor in the early adventure range with a story set on the planet Winter. Funnily enough entitled Dalek Occupation of Winter. The TARDIS team arrive on the planet that have a speciality of sending the workforce. Let me try that again. Sending the workforce. I've done it again. Hang on.
It's called workforce.
Sending the workforce off to assemble Daleks. Meanwhile, the brainy ones have the unenviable task of taking the wee bits of goo and the wee alien creature and assembling them into those metal casings. You're about to find out what we think about this tale, but before we get to that, let's get to this. It's who showed up this evening. Joining us from down under, he has a fundus on a Sunday morning. How are you doing, AJ?
Hi guys, how are you?
Good to see you, mate. Always a pleasure. Down in the bowels of, well, not exactly hell in the middle, but it's still Texas. It's Texas Timwell. How are you doing, Timbo?
Hello, it's winter time.
Yeah, there you go, yes. And joining us from NYC, Mr. Will Medina. Any bets for the NFL this weekend, Will?
Not yet. I'll tell you tomorrow. Hey now, everybody.
Right. How you doing, mate? So, yeah. Occupation of Winter. One of the best Dalek stories I've heard from Big Finsh in a while, I've got to admit. There's no Dalek fatigue in this one. There's no, oh God, no Brexit shouting at the microphone again. This really is a nicely knit story. And, you know, you have the community and the whole family thing to boot as well as things going down on the planet of Winter aren't always what they appear, as you see through the actions of both the Dalek ambassador and the Grand Marshal. So, where to begin? Opening thoughts. AJ, can I get your opening thoughts, mate, on Dalek Occupation of Winter, Peter Purvis and Maureen O'Brien?
Yeah, I don't mind this story. It felt like a mixture of old and new Who, and I actually would have loved to have seen this on TV back in the day with Hartnell. I just feel like it would have been a really good serial. Mm-hmm. The characters were good. The story was good. Nick Briggs wasn't, as you said, over the top again, and he shows up as a shop vendor, so that's cool too. We'll get more into the story later on, but yeah, it's just, I think, a really good, rounded story.
Excellent to me. Thank you. Timbo, early adventures, these generally sit well with you. What do you reckon?
It's very good. The title alone immediately makes you think of World War II, the word occupation, you know, and it's a really good premise too, because this is a new idea for the Daleks that they actually, I mean, we know that they use other races as slaves, but here we have them doing something that we've never seen before. Mm-hmm. And you would think, my first thought was, this is something you think we'd seen before. But then again, this, from the Doctor's point of view, this is the first Doctor, so he hasn't had all these other adventures that we've seen with Daleks that the subsequent ones have. So, I mean, anyway, it's a new idea and it's a pretty good one. And they're taking advantage of people that are in a really bad situation because all they have is winter and all they have is what this is good for them. It's their own capitalism they've got there. This gives them jobs and they do all this stuff and they're not treated that badly. They don't even take the Daleks seriously as villains. Mm-hmm. I mean, so it's a pretty interesting story. And of course, this crew comes along and just gets caught up in it. And this is a damn good crew. I mean, it's Stephen and Vicki are really good companions, and we didn't really get a whole bunch of them on television because for the most part they were in transition and not to mention a lot of those episodes are missing. But here we have an opportunity to spend a lot of time with them lately because they're some of the only companions that exist anymore from this time, and they do a really good job as a group, especially Vicki. Here she goes again doing her revolution business at the end of the story, which she did in an episode prior on TV, the Space Museum. And Peter Purvis is an excellent first Doctor. He we kind of take him for granted because we're so used to William Russell, or now we've got Bradley doing his version on it. But I mean, Purvis is very good. He doesn't sound exactly like the Doctor, but he does a great job. He's already built up his own characterization of it over the years, so it's really good.
Excellent. Yeah, I can cover that. Peter Purvis does that bang up first Doctor here, especially with that segment with the hypnotism of Karma with the ring. Ah, boy, do you love that, man.
Yeah.
Excellent. Well, open the thoughts, mate.
This is one of the best first Doctor stories I heard in quite a long time. And that scene that you mentioned about the hypnotic ring that he did, that had me flawed, but I never anticipated him doing anything like that. But knowing the first Doctor, how sly that he is, and that's why he is feared by the Daleks, it's still great in this story. And like you said, the people don't understand who the Daleks are, but they just think if they do this, they're getting their food to survive at that. And that has been going on for many generations. So that's what stood out right there. Peter Purvis doing the voice of the first Doctor, that stood out great. And yeah, like Tim said, because we got Valley and the other Russell like that, we're not used to him, but he stood out pretty good. I like the way his character of the first Doctor stood out pretty good. And the was unusual. This doesn't, in a way, even though the crew, the Doctor and the crew leave Winter to go on the next story, this doesn't end, because even after the music ends, there's still more, an epilogue after it.
Yes, good point.
And the thing is, you want to know what happens afterwards there. Now, like, does that mean maybe the first Doctor will come back, or the second or the third, like that? So that leaves open for somebody to come back to find out what happens, especially since the Grand Marshal, what happened to him, and now who's taking over the planet. So that stood out pretty great right there. Yeah,
that is a very good point. This is one of these very uncharacteristic types of stories. It doesn't actually end well. In fact, it ends quite bleak, as well alluded to. And Psycho Bitch is now running the asylum. So, talk about leaving you wanting more with that epilogue of an ending. But for me, the guy you've alluded to, Peter Purvis and Maureen O'Brien, they did a usual bang-up job here. I flipping loved the character of the Grand Marshal. Who played him well?
The Grand Marshal?
Yeah.
You mean Gaius Majorian?
Yeah.
Robert Dawes.
Robert, he was just so condescending, pompous. At times couldn't be bothered. Just wanted to sit there and nibble his nuts. And I don't know. There was just a hint of Alex McQueen about him for me at times, just with the way he replied.
His voice a little bit reminded me of the Medley Monk a little bit, the way he talks.
Well, maybe a wee bit of the Medley Monk there as well. But no, kudos to the actor for this role, man. He was just, he was slimy, he was sadistic, and at the same time, he was somewhat charming. And if you can be all three, well done to you. Fantastic job. The brother and sister subplot, that was fine. You know the brother would probably end up being a red shirt. That's what happened to kickstart the revolution, to obtain the weapons in the warehouse. So that's fine. And the sister basically almost ended up becoming Stephen's companion for the majority of this story. So they served an end to their means. Right, guys. Any characters or instances that stood out for you within this tale? Tim, how you stand out, mate?
Well, as you just pointed out, they did a really good job of splitting everybody up. I mean, first Vicki hangs out with the Doctor for a while. Stephen's off for the whole story, basically, with this young woman, and he knows what's going on long before they do. You find out. I mean, Vicki finds out, I think, an episode later what's going on with the building Daleks and stuff. As to your remarks about what's his name, what was he called again? The
Grand Marshal.
The Marshal. Yeah, he you're right. He is really interesting as a character, and they twisted his ending as well. More often than not, the typical way is for the guy that's been sucking up the Daleks the whole time, of course, gets disposed of by the Daleks at some point. And it's the betrayal, and it's always been that way. Here they leave it till the very end after the credits. Yeah. So that it's just thrown in as an extra twist of the knife, which is really clever, because you thought when he got away with it for once, and he's not even good enough to be a villain. He's just a slimy guy. Yeah. It's really upsetting what he does with Vicki at the end of episode 2. I mean, he just kind of betrays her and leaves her there to be killed. If you have to kill her, do it quick, that kind of thing. So, that was really good. All the characters were interesting. Also, the woman at the end who
O'Connor.
Yeah, she gets everything. I mean, she gets everything she wanted. And she's such a despicable character, too, because she's just doing it because she's bored. She's just a bitch because she wants to be. And it's like, okay.
Yeah, excellent. No, very good. Cold-hearted bitch indeed. Who played Connor well?
Connor was played by Sarah Powell.
That name rings a bell, actually. I think she's one of the staples that they bring in from time to time. So
she's a very good villainess. I mean, and she made it through to the end as well. It's one of those things where, like you said, the ending was bleak, but at the end of the day, the good guys got away, and so did the bad guys. So, I mean, it remains to be seen if this is going to continue in another part of this series, or maybe with a later Doctor. We never know. So.
To quote good old number 9, just this once, everybody wins. Yeah. All right, AJ, anything stand out, mate?
Whoever the writer for this story was just absolutely brilliant in the characterization of the Doctor, Stephen, and Vicki.
This is his first story ever for Big Finish.
Well, he was really well done. I think he nailed the three main characters really well. Like the banter between the three of them at the beginning of the story, with Vicky's like, "Don't wander off, Doctor," and he's like, "I'm not the one who's always wandering off. It's you guys." And it's true, because pretty much everyone just wanders off from each other in any story. It's really funny.
Yeah. And
I just loved the whole thing, the characterization of those three, but also all the other sub-characters, the Majorian, Kana, the sister, and the brother. I'm just really weird. I thought the Daleks were going to turn the brother into a Dalek or something at some point in the story. I was hoping for that. That would have been cool.
Yeah, we're gonna have Daleks take Manhattan one before it happened.
That's kind of what happened to him, didn't it? I mean, in a way. But then they killed him
and the psyche, yeah.
Yeah, but he was impure, so they killed him.
Yeah. Which
is just like them,
Yeah. There was a means to an end with the time of that death, though. It was so that the townspeople could see, oh, hang on, wait a minute, this isn't what we're supposed to see here. Yeah, let's start a revolution. But there we go. Right, guys. Open mic portion of the podcast. Anything else you want to bring up before we get this rated? Sorry, Walt, my bad. Go for it.
Yeah. Once again, you forget me.
I know.
Look,
everybody. One of the kind of faces, man.
Everybody had played their role real well. I mean, it all stood out. I mean, like you said, you got that crazy bitch Connor. I mean, her role is great, and I'm looking forward to a follow-up story with her character. And of course, that crazy nut Majorian. I mean, look what happened to him at the end. He thought he was gonna get away with his shenanigans. And of course, the brother and sister played their role good, because you see the brother, he didn't want to go with them. That's why he got sick in the ceremony. And then after Vicki finds him, you see that after what he saw, that he has to deal with those slimy Daleks before they go into to the casing. I mean, that was great. And then when he got bitten by it, and then he started becoming a Dalek. Yeah, that he started becoming, in a way, even though he wasn't aware of it, he started the revolution that had the humans attack the Daleks. So that's everybody stood out. Even his sister, with this guy, that was great. It all stood out pretty good. Yeah, with Steven, it stood out pretty good. The sister.
Yeah, you mentioned Alma. Who played her?
Siobhan Marks.
And her brother Voss was played by?
Her brother Voss was played by Matthew Jacobs Morgan.
And actually, that rounds up your guest cast for this audio, folks. So, go figure. Good job by one and all. And of course, before Will says it, directed by our buddy. There you go. Two thumbs up from the man from New York there.
Lisa Barman.
Yeah. Lisa Barman doing top-notch directorial duties again. And with that, open mic portion of the podcast, folks. And that's what I bring up before we get this rated in the can.
Well, it'll be interesting to see if we ever see the Daleks using slaves for this kind of work again. This is the first time they've really done that. The most we've seen before was the Khaleds using the Mutos to move radioactive stuff around. And it put a new spin on it, because it made it a more human story. I mean, again, the reason you get Dalek fatigue is when they just do stupid things like chase people and shout exterminate. This made them a little bit more nuanced in a way, so that you actually have them as not quite the villains, because they don't even have guns at this point. And they talk about what are we going to give them the guns now or whatever, and it becomes a political thing almost, right? But it's a very clever use of the characters. And it really made it a good story for a change. And I don't know. I mean, there's not enough good things you can say about it. It's a really good story.
Yep. Excellent. Anything else, guys?
Well, the thing is,
I like that.
Go ahead, Jay. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I was going to say, just a funny part of the story, when Stephen was making up the Dalek base, and you hear him go, there's another base. And I just imagine him, going from side to side, just putting the base down on the ground. Like, dusty off his hands.
Let's slow this down. Well,
yeah.
No, well, I was going to say, this is the first time we see humans building the base of a Dalek, because if we go to the first, the origin story, it was Davros and the technicians who built the Dalek. So after Davos was gone, before he got returned, we always wonder who kept building these Dalek cases and all that, because you know, because the gun had to be by certain people, you know, the base had to be a certain way, and everything was different. So I always wonder about that. So seeing that they use, you know, you could say slave labor and all that to build themselves, that stood out pretty good, because in a way they could use this, like, well, if you're using humans to build your base, then in a way somebody could sneak in there and booby trap all those casings to eliminate you guys when you go out to battle in wars and all that.
Well, I guess that's why they kept the humans on their side. As not so much, they weren't even treated as slaves. They were just treated as, it was a job for them.
It was a job.
Workers.
And, but on the other hand, you also have in Power of the Daleks where they have a whole system where it just, you have a whole bunch of machinery that just creates.
Conveyor belt, yeah,
it was a conveyor belt of casings. So, I mean, at some point in their history, they managed to get rid of the slave aspect and go automated. But for this, though, this is a new idea on an old idea. So
it seems to me they might have went humans, robo-men, conveyor belt, but who knows, you know. So
good stuff, though.
Yeah. Well, if there's nothing else, guys.
Well, the only thing like I said earlier in my opening, I like this story has to have a sequel, whether it will be the first Doctor or any Doctor coming up. I look forward to it because it's real good.
I don't know. It would only merit a sequel. What do you do with that chick if you bring her back? I mean, all right, she's basically in the role of the fucking Grand Marshal now, but then what?
That's the problem. We should still be Grand Marshal because remember the sister wants to kill her. The sister knows about it.
But I don't think the sister would last too long, unfortunately, if she got her way and, you know, ran the plot.
What do they have left, though, these people? Yeah, she's in charge now, but of what? The people have all gone revolution.
Rebelled,
so,
they're not gonna build more Dalek casing. So as I say, I look forward to either whichever Doctor shows up, destroying that lab that has all those little incubated Daleks, and of course deal with the chick.
Again, it's an interesting.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I'm going to say it's an interesting thought, Will, but all you've really got here is a couple of bullet points. To make it really a legitimate sequel, you're really going to have to get a title in that story even about those bullet points. Could you do that? Possibly.
So you think the tease at the end has nothing to do with the continuation of this story? It probably has as a preview of the next story in the box. I mean, in the setup, the series, I guess. Because I first thought maybe they were talking about Galaxy 4, which this is before, technically. But obviously, I think these 4 stories that are in this year's run of episodes are probably tied together in some way. So they could come back to this situation maybe before they were there or something. You never know. They always try to be kind of timey-wimey. But
that's big finish for you. Before, after, and in between. Time will tell.
For me, at the end of the story, I don't think it leads into a sequel or anything. I think it just basically means, you know, it's showing you what happens after they leave, because you don't get to see that in the TV series, really, do you? You know, whether the overthrow of the people was successful or not. I think it's just to say, you know,
and to be fair, and to be fair, this is something they could get away with like that, because obviously it's not an event in history which is set in stone, so they could do what the hell they like with it. So, there you go. Right, well, if there's nothing else, guys, as Saturday night's ticking on, it's that time again.
So we send our condolences to the family of Stanley on his passing a few days ago.
Yes, Excelsior no more, and there's no point waffling on. What a life. Dalek Occupation of Winter. Peter Purvis and Maureen O'Brien. Doctor Who The Early Adventures, Season 5, story number 1? 1 or 2?
Yeah.
AJ, what do you give this out of 10?
I'm going to give it a 9 out of 10. Just a perfect rounded story, I think.
Stupendous. Well done, mate. Timbo, what's the number from Techie Cho?
I agree with that. I'll give it a 9.5.
Okay. Well, what about you?
Because of Bauman, it gets a perfect 10 for me. And I look forward. I look forward to the sequel. A rare occasion indeed.
Yeah. Okay. No need to get. Relax, old man. And for me, I'll agree with Timbo. I'll give us a 9.5 out of 10. Excellent story. Excellent foil for this particular TARDIS team at the time, and a great Dalek story, which, sorry, but they're few and far between these days. So when we get them, we must embrace them. Yes. Explain. Anyway, with that, done, finito, and in the can for the four of us this evening. We will be back next week when it's a turn of the second Doctor, ably played by Patrick Troughton, but in this case, it's a companion chronicle entitled, Will?
The Tactics of Defeat.
The Tactics of Defeat, where we have a very interesting guest cast in the guise of Daphne Ashbrook as our Big Finish character, Captain Ruth Matheson. So we'll see how the hell that all ties up when somebody for 8's timeline ends up in 2's. It's all about the numbers, folks. It's all about the numbers. And with that, guys, we are done for the evening. Please check out our buddies on the wonderful Wackety World of the YouTube. You've got the guys and dolls at the Geeks Assemble with the movie, TV, and audio head reviews. You've got Dr. Freedom and his news broadcast and his Amiga Files, as well as the adventures of Dr. Freedom and Eric. You've got Johnny Blue, Sammy Carter, Mike Shannon, wherever he's online. Like, share, comment, subscribe, all that good jazz. We're getting the hell on out of here. I'm going to brew some whiskey in my bathtub. And then maybe watch a movie. Be excellent to yourself, folks, and each other, and see you next week. Fuckity bye.